we're back. Welcome back to Comics with Drew. I'm Drew, and this is another edition of me complaining about a Spider-Man comic book, which is really, let's be honest with you, let's be honest with ourselves. That's the real reason anybody watches any videos on Comics with Drew's channel. So, yes, contrary to popular reports, John Romita Jr. has not actually located me. I am hidden in an undisclosed location. And he has not found me. Now, you think I'm joking, but that dude actually is pretty. He's in pretty good shape. He's actually pretty cut. So I've seen some recent photos of him at conventions, and so. But no, no. All kidding aside, I'm back with a new review of Spider-Man. This time, Spider-Man number 8. Um, I you know I guess the theme of this book might be if you can't beat them, join them. So, I mean, first of all, let me just let me put this out there. This particular issue of this run of Spider-Man is actually probably one of the better issues, right? And the reason I say that is because of the pacing for the comic. It's actually pretty balls to the wall. It actually goes really fast. I mean, it's got a real good pace to it. It moves along at a really fast clip. And that's really good because it doesn't allow you to really linger on all of the garbage shots that you might be looking at. So, and what I mean by that, as always, is that John Romita's art is. It is what it is. So let's start off with the top. The cover here, well, you may have noticed something a little bit different with Spider-Man in this particular cover. He's kind of rocking a Green Goblin kind of vibe. And, I've heard some people talk about this and say that they actually kind of liked it. I am not one of those people because I'm a fan of Spider-Man. I'm not a fan of Spider-Man as the Green Goblin. I'm not a big fan of mashups of characters, especially when you have a character as iconic as Spider-Man. It's one of the very few, in my opinion, perfect characters. Especially from the design standpoint of the character. Bright red, bright blue, big eyes, very expressive. There's no cape. It's just a lot of simplicity and elegance in the design. And I've never been a big fan of screwing around with that unless there's a really good reason to do it, right? I mean, occasionally you've got like the cool costumes like the symbiote costume, but that actually has a really good storyline to it. This, yeah, I'm not really feeling this, right? So the art again is John Romita Jr. at peak John Romita Jr. There's a real problem in this book with the legs, right? So I don't know what is going on, but you'll notice here his arms are about as long as his legs are in this particular shot, and you can kind of get away with it a little bit with some of the perspective, but that knee leg connection there, that looks like a chicken wing. So that's pretty terrible. But without further ado, basically the story is, if you were reading the previous issues, the Vulture's daughter basically says that she doesn't want to have anything to do with him because he's a bad guy and he murdered a bunch of people. And that's as you do as a supervillain. That's just your jam. But in this particular case, his daughter has decided that she doesn't want to talk to him. So he gets it in this he gets this idea in his head that the reason that she even knows about this stuff, it must be Spider-Man that actually told her this stuff, right? So because that's what Peter Parker does. He runs around as Spider-Man, narking on all the supervillains to their family members. All right. So, but this is just a pretense for the Vulture beating the living daylights out of Spider-Man. And that's what he does. He does that for a good long minute at the end of the last issue. And then this issue picks up where Spider-Man's being dropped from a very great height. And he's trying to come up with some options to survive. And, he decides that he's going to get a clip. Was this a clip? What is this? It's a pressure wire. It's a cartridge. He's getting one of his web fluid cartridges, and he decides to crack it open, and that's a bit of a questionable shot here. So mean, some people might find it interesting, the positioning of all this massive white fluid spraying out, but I mean, maybe I've just got a dirty mind. I don't know, but it's a bit weird. And with this particular video, I'm kind of just gonna blend in the story along with the art critique. So, so this issue picks up with basically the Vulture beating the living daylights out of Peter Parker as Spider-Man, and that's about it, right? So he goes several rounds here, and pretty soon Peter's at the end of his rope, and he calls up. He does a phone a friend. He calls up Norman Osborn, of course, and says, "Hey man, I need that tricked out suit because Vulture's beating the living daylights out of me." Norm goes like, "Yeah, about that. Yeah, no, I'm not going to be able to do that for you because I can't. You don't have Google locations turned on, right? So I don't have location services turned on for you, so I can't send you the costume because you've kind of been a dick to me for the past, 5 or 6 issues. Which, to be fair, it is Norm." But anyway, he says he can't send him the suit, and then Peter's very upset about that because now it's like, now you're betraying me. But honestly, I think Peter's acting a bit like a little bit of a bitch with this, because it's like he's not happy with Norman when he's doing one thing, and then if he does the other thing, he's not happy with them. And really, the problem I find with Peter here is that his opinion of people kind of changes on what the situation is for what his personal needs are. And, okay, I mean, that's not really, I know that they're really trying to make Peter a bit of an ass with this comic, with this particular run, but what can I say? It's kind of tiresome. And in the context of the story, I mean, I guess it works because he's desperate because Vulture's is beating the tar out of him. And so ultimately, Peter winds up directing the Vulture to a particular place for a kind of like a crash landing. And apparently this is in proximity to the location of the suit. So he gets a suit, and he gets apparently the Green Goblin spider glider. Yeah, spider glider. Anyway, he comes crashing through a building because, why wouldn't you come crashing through a building and destroy everything? That's what the good guys do. So he comes crashing through this building, big as day, and he's on a glider, and he's got glowing everything, and he starts beating the daylights out of the Vulture. And to make a long story short, he makes quick work of the Vulture, and then comes back to Norman, and he's like, "Why didn't you come and help me out, man?" And Norm's like, "Well, because if I get up on this glider and go and help you again, then I might not get back off again, and I might just be the Green Goblin again," which we all know he's going to wind up being the Green Goblin again. Let's be real. I mean, it is the comics. So Peter's like, "Yeah, fine, that's fine. Okay, we're all good, and I'll take a job with you now." And I'm like, all right, so that's the end of the book. It's a fast-paced book. It's really good as far as the pacing is concerned, and there's some pretty good quips in here. My problem with the book is I don't feel like we're back to Peter Parker again. It's the same old with this. Peter is just not acting like Peter should act, right? And he's taking shortcuts when Peter's not supposed to take shortcuts. The whole point of Peter Parker is that he does things the right way, right? It's the whole, with great power comes great responsibility. And Peter hasn't been doing that. He's been, ducking out on his bills. He's not been maintaining a job. He's been stalking his ex-girlfriend, wife now situation. There's lots of drama, and it's just not really enjoyable to read as a Spider-Man fan, in my personal opinion. And I know a lot of people out there agree with me, but even though that this is a kind of return to a better pacing, what are we getting? We're getting Peter acting basically like the Green Goblin. So he's got this spider-themed Green Goblin action going on. He's throwing bombs. I mean, he's throwing verbal bombs, but he's also throwing physical bombs. And, it's just not, I think, in the spirit of what Spider-Man should be. I, in full disclosure, have not read issue 9, which I believe is out right now. You may have noticed I haven't been doing as many videos. Again, it's not because I don't want to do the videos. It's because of the fact that I've got a lot of stuff going on. So time is precious. So I don't know what's going on with issue 9. Let's get into some of the art here. So again, like I said earlier, we got the chicken leg here, or the chicken wing, whatever you want to call it. That's more of a chicken wing with Spider-Man on the cover. You got the Green Goblin stuff, and it's pretty terrible. But then you've got like again the questionable web fluid cartridge. I mean, there's lots of jokes to be made about the web fluid cartridge and the web fluid shooting out of his fingers and out of his wrists and stuff like that. But I mean, I probably would not have positioned this the way that they positioned it. It's a bit weird. On page 3 here, we've got another really great shot of Peter narrowly averting death here. But again, if you look closely, he's got these little midget legs, and I don't know why we're even doing them this way. It's kind of like, if you start writing something and it's on a small piece of paper, and before you know it, you're getting really to the end and you really got to cram in all the letters. That's kind of like what this feels like from an artistic point of view here. There's no reason why Peter's hand should basically be bigger than his leg here. There are easy artistic solutions to these, and for whatever reason, John is just not going with it. Thankfully, in this issue, we don't have any children with their gigantic, massive beach ball heads and tiny, tiny little PVC pipe necks. But we do have some very weird leg action going on. So there's leg issues all the way throughout the book. But I think the one that is most egregious to me, aside from the one that I just showed you, is near the very end of the book. We've got this Peter standing in profile. He looks like, what he's got here is the glider on his back, and he's wearing it like a backpack. So he kind of looks like Miles Morales a little bit, which, is a great look for Miles, but not really a great look for Peter. And then we've got this stupid helmet, right? So it's like Spider-Man, Iron Man. I know a lot of people aren't fans necessarily of the way the suit works in the Marvel movies and the MCU, but it actually looks like Spider-Man. Here he looks like he's got like some motorcycle helmet on, and it just looks terrible. But furthermore, I don't understand why one leg here is longer than the other leg. I maybe you guys can help me here, because I just don't see it. I mean, we have two different legs that are attached to the same person, and one is much longer than the other. Furthermore, you've got the weird new costume, and it's just stuff that is easy stuff. It's really easy, so I don't really understand why we can't get it nailed. Obviously, we have just the weird faces that Romita is working with here, and then we also have this last page, and in profile here, Peter looks not unlike Rob Liefeld's Captain America. But the main problem I have with this suit is this stupid emoji face. Oh my, oh god. I'm trying hard to find the words, right? So, like I said in the beginning of the video, Spider-Man, the look of Spider-Man is a classic look. It's an elegant look, and it's one of the best designed superhero faces out there, period, right? It's iconic. I would put it up, I would say that there's not really a more iconic superhero face aside from Batman than Spider-Man, right? I mean, it just is amazing. No pun intended. But when you if you're gonna screw around with the outfit, don't do this, right? I don't need Peter Parker's emojis. I don't need his face turned into emojis. It's stupid. It really is stupid, right? I know why they're doing it. It gives a lot more freedom and a lot more options for doing facial expressions. But Spider-Man doesn't need to be freaking texting people like an asshole. I mean, he just his expressions are great with his eyes, and I think that's really what makes the character really pop off the page. Honestly, I just don't have anything good to say about it, right? I mean, I could get upset about it, but the whole thing is just wrong-headed in the first place. So, I mean, why not, right? I mean, if we're going to stick him on a glider and have him tossing bombs, right? One of the reasons that the Green Goblin is so effective as a villain is he's tossing these little pumpkin bombs, right? And those are pretty cool. Peter Parker or Spider-Man doesn't have pumpkin bombs to be thrown around. So it doesn't even fit the theme for the character. And I know this is nerd stuff. I get it, right? I mean, this is comic nerd geek stuff. But to me, it's important, right? I mean, that's why I have a freaking YouTube channel about it. But I mean, if you're gonna do this thing with Peter Parker, where you're gonna give him a face where he can like dial up emojis, that's just cheap and stupid and asinine. Okay, that's really just my opinion about it. I know a lot of people are gonna say, "Oh, this is cool and great, and we can do different things with this face." You don't. Different is not better. All right. Just because something is different, or just because you can do something different, doesn't mean it's better. Oftentimes, less is more. The whole point of his face is that you have so much emotion with the big white eyes, and when you cheapen it by basically turning it into a freaking text message, I don't really understand. I don't think that you really understand the spirit of Spider-Man, right? I don't think that they understand what makes the character tick or what makes the character sing. So this is not a John Romita problem. This is a Zeb Wells problem. But anyway, that's my review of Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man #8. And I just don't know really where they're going with this at this point, and I just can tell you that I don't really like it. So anyway, thanks again for watching Comics with Drew. I'm Drew, and I'll catch you next time.